Hey, Philip, you're muted. There
Got
you
it.
go. Yep.
How are you this afternoon?
Good. It's been busy.
Yeah, sounds like.
Lots going on. So, yeah, we're kind of treading water here, but that's good.
Yeah. So, did you get a chance to upload or watch any of the videos I uploaded? Or
I think I did. I did well, I sent you the ones I watched, I sent you feedback on.
okay, um, we c- we can watch the ones from today. There are a couple of things I wanted your input on, so I've already got them loaded up. So I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks for setting up the meeting, and you remembered to record and everything.
Yeah. Tells me my speaker's not working, but it sounds fine to me.
No, it's yeah, good. Your brain
Okay.
fell out, or did
Yeah.
it hurt?
Yeah. Well, no, mine did.
Oh,
Actually, I thought it was hers at first, but actually, it turns out it was my mistake, not hers. But
uh,
well, I mean, she was a little distracted too, but it was mostly me.
okay.
So you wanted to see her at the gate
Yep.
when the
Yep.
goats
Good.
came in. So
She seems much more interested than she did in the beginning.
yeah, yeah,
And one thing you asked me, and I wanted to tell you, you said, well, she's not as hooked up as she was to the sheep in Georgia. We don't want her that hooked up.
yeah.
We're
That's
happy with this.
that's what I kind of figured.
Because
The
then she
other thing that's
couldn't listen to you.
the other thing that seems pretty common is that she doesn't really react to them as much unless they react to her. So if they're just sitting there eating like that, she knows they're there, and she kind of tries to edge in towards them. But if they're very calm and not even looking at her, she's kind of a little bit less hooked up.
So that all goes back to why I start with stock in a very small pen, because one of the main things that arouses herding dogs and most dogs is movement. They want to control movement. So if something isn't moving, they're not nearly as interested because there's no need for them. I mean, it doesn't arouse them nearly as much as when something moves. That's why we use a small pen to try and um, control the amount of arousal to start with.
Okay. Um, so you can probably tell, but I can't really all that well while I'm watching the video, that she is really pretty constantly trying to edge in towards them.
Yeah,
And I have to control her with the leash. And a couple times she got past me and got in
sure.
towards them.
Yeah.
And I'm not at all sure I'm using I need a lighter weight crook.
Uh-huh.
That's a big 40 schedule 40 1.5 inch PVC. That's why I kind
Right.
of threw it down there. But anyway, I would like for you to comment on whether I'm using it correctly, too much, too little. Um, it was so heavy that it was hitting the ground a lot harder than I really meant for it to.
Right. My crook is really light. So what are you doing now?
Well, I'm letting her come in a little bit closer because she wasn't at one point, and I think we missed it. She picked up a stick for me to throw, and
uh
so I let her come in a little bit closer to get her hooked up, and then I started again with her on the peripheral.
okay. Okay, that's fine. I just didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah, and I need a shorter lead. I actually had one out today and forgot to bring it, so I ended up with that 15-foot rope there, but
Right.
kind of got me tangled up. Didn't seem to bother her very much.
Right. I understand. That's why I like when I'm doing this, I put on a leash that's like 6 foot, but I hook it back into the clip. So it's just a big 3 foot loop. And then I hook it over my wrist. And that way it's real easy for me to control the dog. We're just trying to get her the idea that we want her on the perimeter and that that's where she can be comfortable.
Right.
So like now there, is she to the inside?
Yep.
So,
What,
so
yeah,
anytime you're going around, she should be on the outside.
yes. Um, I don't know how much pressure should I be putting on the leash? Like
Probably
that
as much
time,
as you have to keep
you
her in onto the side.
right.
And then what
Okay.
I do is I take treats, and when I get a few steps of her staying out where I want her, then I will give her some treats
Okay.
and you know, say, you know, good dog or whatever you want to say to her. But yeah, um, we're just trying to get her the idea that you can be controlled and calm. Your job is to go around on the outside, circle the stock, and you don't have to always be chasing them or harassing them. That it's yeah, I can see you got yeah, that's way too long for this. I mean, for this you just want a leash.
Okay.
Yeah, I work with a dog till they can pretty much walk with me. Um, just stay on the outside and just walk around and then one way and then turn, go the other way. And if at this point, I don't usually reinforce them by letting them go into the stock. Now I can understand you're saying, well, she wasn't hooked up. Okay, that makes more sense. But if she is, then just treats. You know, just
Okay.
stop her, ask her to sit, and then, you know, then just ask her to go with you. I don't know if, you know, you have a cue that I just say with me. Pretty creative, but
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, she'll pretty much just walk with me on her own, but yeah, so dispense with the crook altogether or just use it a lot less.
yeah, if you don't, you're only using it if you need it.
Yeah.
So if you don't need it, and plus, are the goats in the center of the pen, or are they off to one side more?
They're more in this I put their feet in the center. So right now
Oh,
they're moving off towards the side, but the dark colored one is pretty close to the center of the pen.
okay, then you should be all the way out here on the perimeter of the pen with her.
Okay.
Like when you go around, you're like you're way in there. I want you to be way out because we're trying to give her the idea that she can stay out. She is a pushy dog. She's going to want to go in. So she's got to start learning that she can control the stock and be comfortable from a distance. And actually dogs can control much better from a distance because they don't have to go as far to control. When they're real close, they got to go, you know, way over here and way over there. If they're back, they can just drop a shoulder or take a step, turn their head and control stock, but they don't realize that. And
Okay.
but B and I know she's very pushy. See, I would love it if she was out far enough that those goats never moved off of that feed when you were doing this.
Okay.
You know, that's the idea, is to keep everything calm, because as soon as they start moving, then she's going to want to start interacting with them. And we want her to, we're removing more of the distractions of the whole thing. You know, it's still distracting though. She can see him, she can smell him, she's moving. There's plenty going on there.
Okay. I do have an X pen that I have two sections where I can probably form a 4x4 or even a 6x6 enclosure. Should I use that or okay? Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be great, because then, especially if you can put a little feed in there to get him in, and she's going to be out on the perimeter, so she isn't going to be pushing him. So, you know, I wouldn't say, well, once we start really working her around, you know, on a long line and she's loose, that would probably work. But for this, it'd be easy to set up, and I would use it. And that way you don't have to worry about the goats, you know, tromping around. And
Okay.
like I said, but you're going to keep her right on the fence the whole time.
Okay. So let's say that I do that this afternoon and we're walking around the extreme perimeter of the fence
Mhm.
and she's not reacting to the goats at all inside the pen. Should I
Okay.
just call that good or should I
So
move
what
her?
I do is if she's just walking with you and she's not really paying attention, and then I would say yes, and then I would use your walk-in cue, and I'd walk in towards the goats with her. That would be the reinforcer.
Okay.
And then when you got in there, I'd ask her to stop, maybe sit down, and then I would give her some more treats if she did it. And then what I like to do is call the dog off, and so of course even if you're on a leash, or if she's on a leash and you've got like 6 feet, I leave the dog, I hold on to the leash, I turn away from them, and then I kind of turn sideways and call them so that you're actually like you're turned away from the stock, like you're calling her to you, to your back more, or to the kind of over your shoulder, because you want her to come to you. And if you call her to your front, maybe she will, but I just found if a dog's pretty close and they're pretty hooked up, if they turn and they do look at you and see you're kind of walking away, they're more likely to come with you. And
Okay.
if you don't need to, that's fine. But I just, when I usually start out calling a dog off, and then if you find out, hey, she comes right off, well, then you can start letting her walk in and just stay there on the perimeter, let her walk in to the end of the leash and ask her to stop before she gets to the end of the leash, and then call her back. And if that works, then you might want to get a like maybe hook 2 leashes together. I don't think you want that whole long line because it looks like it's pretty tangled, but either a shorter long line or a couple leashes, and then you can just stay out on the perimeter and let her go in a little bit and then stop her. And then I usually go in if they stop. When I ask, I go in, give them treats. Usually I'll ask, but I don't, as they get closer, they tend to drop down, they tend to go down, and that's fine, but I usually don't ask for down. But you're going to use a down for stop, so yes, that's right, you would go in, and when she down, then you go in, mark her, give her a treat, then you leave her and come back and call her back to you. And the whole idea is that she doesn't hit the end of the leash or the long line. That's the whole goal, is so that you're not, like if she doesn't want to come to you, let's say she's hooked up, she's gotten pretty close this time to the goats, and you call her and there's like nobody home, then what I do is I just go closer and ask her again. And then even to the point of, getting right down next to her and saying, come on, let's go. And knowing, okay, now next time I won't let her go in quite that close.
Okay.
But I don't ever yank them and say, come on, but and then again, if she gets in close and then all of a sudden she decides instead of stopping to go grab at him or, charge him, then you've got the leash. And so then if she corrects herself on the leash, that's the way it is, as far as I'm concerned. And
Okay.
plus when you got her on a 6-foot or even a 12-foot leash, she ain't going to get going that fast, especially on a 6-foot. And, if they hit the end of the leash, they hit the end of the leash. And then they learn, well, I shouldn't probably do that. But,
Yeah.
I'm not going to jerk on them. But if they self-correct, I'm going to say, well, like one time, sir, he went and he really tried to get the sheep in the pen, and I've got it on video. And I just, I had stopped and he went in, he hit the end of it, and then he stopped, and I just called him back. And I think I didn't give him a timeout. I'll give the dog one chance. Like if they do something like that, I figured the hitting the end of the leash is correction enough. And then he didn't do it again. If he had done it again, I would have given him a timeout. I would have taken him out of the pen. And like, if you have your goat hutch there, I would take her behind there for like 2 or 3 minutes. Just stand there. Don't say anything, and then go back in. So that's how I would do a timeout. But I usually give the dog one chance. And then if they, they don't self-correct, then I give them a timeout and say, well, if you do that, then we're not going to do this, and we're not going to play this game.
Okay. So I think I understand the mechanics, although there's a lot there.
I know.
Just so I get the concept down, which will help guide me
Sure.
towards the steps.
Sure.
I'm basically trying to move in gradually towards the stock,
As you
keeping
walk.
her in control as much as possible.
No, you're keeping her out on the perimeter all the time. And if she does well, then you're going to allow her to walk in towards the stock. but your circles are always going to be on the perimeter. You're going to keep her always on the perimeter. When she can go in is when she walks straight in towards them.
Okay. And once she walks straight in towards them, I did miss that. Then once she walks in straight towards them, let's say she gets 6 feet away, what do I do then?
Before she hits the end of the leash or whatever you've got her on, then you're going to tell her down. If she goes down, you're going to say yes and give her lots of treats. And then you're going to step back away from her towards the fence, maybe a step or two, and call her. And if she comes, then yay, 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 more treats. And then you start walking again.
I got it. Okay. Yeah, I did misunderstand that then. Okay. So she's always on the perimeter of the fence outside, and I'm inside of her. And she walks in towards the goats as a reward for
staying on the perimeter and walking it up, trying to get to them. Yeah,
try not to go in. Okay. All right. I get that.
As soon as she quits trying to cross in front of you to get to them, then she gets them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I get that.
Okay.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next?
I am, if you are. If you have any other questions.
Yeah, I think.
I think this. If there's a lot, and if it's much easier to explain it again and go through it till you get the feel for it than you to send a 20-minute video of it, and then I say, oh no, that's not it.
Right.
We can take 5 minutes here, and then you go, oh, okay, we're going to keep staying on the perimeter. I'm not going to keep moving closer.
Yeah, I'm glad we went over it again, because I would have done it incorrectly.
Yep.
But anyway, this is relatively short, I think, but I'll preface it by saying that I learned 2 things. First is the importance of video, because I would have missed the mistakes that I made that I thought were her mistakes. And second of all, that when things start to go badly, I should have stopped right there, taken a break, and reevaluated what I was doing. But I kind of kept going. And fortunately, I corrected myself subconsciously. But watching the video and realizing that, well, I should have stopped right there, because I knew things weren't going quite as well as they usually do. I just didn't know why. So anyway, we can watch this.
I'll say this. I mean, just that you take videos you're like 10 miles ahead of most people, because they don't. And even as you get farther and farther, what you'll find is you'll miss things, and you'll think, oh, why did that happen? It made no sense. But then and sometimes you can't tell, but a lot of times you're like, oh, well, that goat did this, or she did that, or I did this, and I, didn't even realize. So I think it's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think it feels like kind of a hassle, getting the tripod set up and hauling my phone around, which I don't usually out on the farm because it gets beaten up. But, it really has made a difference on a couple of occasions.
Well, if it makes you feel bad, I've got like thousands of videos, and every time I go out and do a video, I change my clothes, because the stuff I wear on the farm is all stained and crappy. And so I didn't even, before I was even planning to show them to anybody, but now I'm thankful, because I can go back and pull a video from 4 years ago and show people, and I look decent where the stuff I wear on the farm is not anything I'd want to show.
Yeah. Well, same here mostly.
Okay.
So anyway, we don't have to watch this whole thing, but what happened was that I gave her the wrong cue, and I thought she was going the wrong way. She was actually going correct, and I was telling her wrong. So I'm glad I went back and watched it.
Ah, yes.
Now she did. Every time I change anything with that cone square, she goes in quite a bit. And I'm getting better about taking the reward away from her. But,
yes, you are.
I made this square a little bit different shape this time, and I took away the barriers. So she went in several times when she probably shouldn't have. But I think I'll be able to fix that.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you've got latitude, your dog, you want to try stuff. I try stuff all the time. If something doesn't work, I change it. I don't keep, beating a dead horse. if I try something and I don't think it's working, I'll go back or I'll try something else, or I'll think about it. And then, you know, sometimes I get inspiration, sometimes I don't. But I'm not big on, this is the way you do it and this is how you have to do it. I'm big on, if this isn't working, we need to change something or try something or figure out why it isn't working.
Yeah.
And I think you're almost at the point where you've got a big enough square that you could probably make it into a circle, because it looks to me like she's going to want to, if I were a dog, I'd cut through right that corner, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would just go ahead and switch to a circle now and see
Yeah.
how that helps. See how
That's
that.
exactly what happens about 3/4 of the time is she
Yeah.
cuts the circle.
Well, yeah, because
Um,
you know, it's behavioral economics. Why go out there when she can see right? I can see right where I'd go. You know, I wouldn't go around there. And
right.
my dogs, I think, would, because the way I started and the way, and I did a lot more of this up to this point with a smaller square. I don't think they would, but I would be fun to try to set up a square that big. I'll have to try it and see what Sir does.
Okay.
So do you have any other video you want to, or is there something else on this one? I mean, we could.
No, this is we can stop this. Did you have something else you wanted to show me, or
No, I guess not.
okay?
Um,
The I did want to show you one thing that I kind of wanted your comments on. It's
sure.
a relatively short, if I can get it to load. My computer has been particularly cantankerous today.
Oh, you and me both. Mine will quit all of a sudden. He'll just be sitting there and he'll go, I'm done.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's just the internet is especially slow or what it is, but so this is do you mind me showing someone else's herding training video? I mean,
No, I don't care.
I just wanted to see what you thought of it.
Sure.
But
Oh,
I don't know.
I've shown people some what other people have done, that some positive trainers that I didn't really
Yeah.
what they were doing was positive, but that's okay. You know, but you know, I just figured this is just between you and I. You're not gonna take this recording and put it out on YouTube or something. So
Well, not intentionally, but I did notice that I made it public. So maybe I should change that to private.
yes,
It would
definitely.
be fine with me. It's not my intent to publish this stuff. So
Well,
um,
and you're paying for it and other people aren't. And
yeah, I get it.
plus
I
the
just
problem is everybody, I don't know, they interpret things like weird.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime you take anything out of so this is a dog that they considered what I guess is particularly pushy, and
Okay.
well, I'll let you comment on it yourself.
You make it full screen.
And the reason I'm showing you this is so that I can understand, just make sure my thinking is right about the way things should and shouldn't be done. And
Right. Why don't you make it full screen, Philip?
okay.
Just so, I mean, I can see it pretty well, but it'll be bigger. So this is an aggressive dog. It's a lesson to control her aggression. Okay.
Right.
Yep. So she's on a long line or not? Yes.
It looks like about a 10-foot lead.
Yeah. That's what I think that would be nice. Now he let her off. I guess he's going to show us what she does. Okay. Yes. She's going to go in and chase. Okay. Now she's interesting. I guess I can't hear him. What is he doing?
Really not saying much of anything. He says back every once in a while, which I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. He's the owner of the dog. He's not the trainer.
Okay. So he's showing us what he's got.
and she's directing him. Do you not get any volume on this?
No, I can't hear anything. It's, I can hear you, but I can't hear anything they say.
Okay.
Or on
Well,
any of the videos, I can't hear anything.
I
When,
can't really understand what he's saying anyway.
okay.
There's a
So I
lot of
don't, I
wind,
don't,
a lot
okay.
of wind in the background. And,
Yeah. Yeah. That's all right. So she's going in and you see what she's doing. She's biting on the sides.
right.
Okay. That's called a cheap shot. If she would go in and bite on the noses or the heels, then that would be more acceptable. But a cheap shot is the dogs usually they're afraid, but they're so aroused that they just do something. So they just go in and they grab, and sometimes they'll hold on for a long time. Like they'll just run along. So I'd say one thing she's lacking a little bit in confidence. She's got some, I mean, there she lied down. And also it jumps. It just goes like jump, jump, jump. The video jumps. So
Yeah, that's the internet connection. It's
okay.
smooth on my end, but crossing over all that fiber optic, I guess, slows it down quite a bit.
Right.
But I don't know if you can tell, he's throwing his hat at the dog and kicking dirt at the dog. And I don't know. I mean, that's not the direction we're going, right? I mean, we're going to be
No.
doing things pretty different and are doing things pretty differently.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty much pretty mild stuff, throwing his hat and kicking dirt, because a lot of times they throw oh gosh, anything you can imagine at the dog. They throw cans filled with like tin cans or a metal can filled with pebbles. They throw crooks, they throw rakes, they throw rattle paddles. Honestly, they throw anything they can think of. I'm sure I've heard of dogs having their eye taken out because they've thrown a crook or a stock stick at them. I mean, I've seen people use like a PVC pipe that was like 20 foot long and try and keep the dog out, hit the dog and keep it out with that. And pretty much anything you can imagine. But no, we're not heading this direction. But honestly, that's pretty mild compared to what I see a lot of people. Usually there's a lot of yelling and screaming.
Let me get this stopped. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I actually was kind of appalled. I mean, I thought it was a little bit harsh. So I don't know, maybe I'm a wimp, but I really can't see treating Judy like that. And, I probably would have pulled her off that stock as soon as she started taking those cheap shots.
Yeah. Well, Philip, you're just like a normal person, but I'm afraid the people that are go to traditional trainers, this would be what you saw would be considered very mild. I mean, I've seen them go after them, chase them with a whip. I've heard of people hanging a dog up until they passed out. I've heard of people sticking a dog's head into a bucket of water.
That's terrible.
I mean, it's abuse.
Yeah, it is. It's I can't see.
Why don't you expand us, because we're real little.
Okay.
I'll tell you a quick story about Sally. She had her dog going pretty good, and you still, yeah. Oh, I think if he stops sharing your screen, then it'll go back.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter, it's just we're real little.
Yeah.
She had her dog going pretty well, but she was slicing in on top. So when you send the dog, okay, if the sheep are here and the dog's down here and you're down here and you send the dog, you want the dog to go out and get around the sheep and then come in and bring the sheep directly to you without moving the sheep as they go. Well, if a dog slices in, they come in too close, and then of course they push the stock over. And so she wanted her to open up and have more distance out here. And so she went to a traditional trainer, and he watched her, and he had her call her dog in, and then they were standing there talking, and her dog was laying at her feet. And he said, so what you should do is you should grab her collar in both hands, lift her up, front feet up off the ground, and scream in her face.
Oh my goodness.
And Sally said, well, why would I do that? She's doing exactly what I want her to do at the moment. It's, it was like 5 minutes ago that she did something we didn't want her to do.
Yeah.
And I knew one guy that would crack a bullwhip, like if the dog started to come in. And sometimes the dog would quit working. Like I knew one woman had an Australian Shepherd. He did that, and he wasn't that close, but it made that crack like a gunshot. Dog didn't work for 3 weeks, and that could have made it forever. And
Yeah.
then of course you got the people with the shock collars. They don't throw stuff, they just go zip, zip, zip. So
Yeah.
no, we're not going to do any of that. The worst we're going to do is the timeout. If you do something egregious more than once, then we're going to take you out nicely, and we're going to just stand behind something where you can't see the stock, and we're going to wait for a few minutes.
Okay.
And and like you said, well, she's not as hooked up as she was. I want her to have some respect, because at the age she is, if we have to go back to where she was out in Georgia, I don't think you have enough time to get her going. I mean, you would have to start working so much just to have her walk around the outside of the pen with you. Like,
Yeah.
I think, we brought her up, her confidence. I really think she's in a good spot, a really good spot. And if she tends to get a little distracted and not be as hooked up, that's okay. Because when I saw her today, and she was sitting there, she was watching, she was paying attention. And we don't want a crazy Judy. We want one, if she has a little respect for the goats. I mean, you don't want her going in there biting and, tearing them up. So, if she'll come in and move them and stuff, and I mean, the dog always has to respect the stock, just like you do. And I mean, you don't want your goats beat up or run into fences or anything, and we don't want her to do that. And so that's what we're heading for anyhow. So I think we're at a good spot with her. I'm really happy to see that she's gotten hooked up and stuff. But I think it's going to be all right. And
Okay.
no, we're not throwing anything at her. And
No, good.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you about that is that I do watch the herding dog training videos and some of the trials and things like that. And I just wanted to make sure that I'm not getting the wrong idea. I mean, I've read your books, and so I kind of knew that that's not
Right.
where we were going to go. But,
Right.
it's easy to get confused or, get the wrong impression by some of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah. And I will admit, I've yelled at my dogs. I've gotten frustrated. I've yelled at them. I have. I
Yeah.
mean, it happens.
Yeah.
With Sir, it happens quite often.
It's easy to do in the heat of battle, I'm sure.
Yeah. But no, I'm not out there. I go out with a treat pouch. A lot of times, like another thing I might suggest, if you've done a lot of clicker training, I didn't think about this. When I was doing that before, I was using a clicker, because to me, and a box clicker, just because it's so different from the environment, and it's loud enough that they can hear it. And so, like, especially like when I start having them walk in and stopping, and the long lines, a little longer, so they get almost up to the stock and they lie down, and I'm still back by the fence, click, and then get up and feed them. But then you've told them exactly, yes, that was, I think it's very, it really sticks out. I can't think of the word. Darn it, that's one of my favorite words too. But it's so different from what they normally hear in the environment. And unless she's really sensitive, like some people can't even use a box clicker because the dog, it bothers them. The noise is too much. But outside like that, I've never had a dog that, that bothered them.
Yeah, I've used a box clicker with her before, and
It's so salient. That's it. It's so salient to them because it's so different. It stands out in, the wind's blowing and you've been talking to them and you're doing stuff, but then they hear that click and it's like, it's almost automatic. It's just, they don't think about, that it's just like, every time you hear like the ka-ching or you hear something like the door opening, knowing, your friend's coming in or your wife's coming in. It's just, you have that innate response that it's good and that click. And so, but then sometimes I don't, because if I get too much in my hands, then I'll just use yes or something. But I try and use a marker so the dog knows that is what I'm reinforcing. But remember, let's say you're out on the perimeter and she walks in nice and you say yes, and then you tell her down and you say yes, and then you go in and then she jumps up, then you don't feed her because you reinforce everything from the time you say yes or click until you actually provide the reinforcement. So if they do something afterwards that you don't like, I'll just say, I usually won't say anything. Often I'll say, oops. I'll just say, oops, oh, sorry, you lost out. Too bad.
Okay.
Too bad.
Should I let her kind of herd the goats back into their paddock like I have been the last couple of days, or?
You can do that. Keep her on the perimeter. Keep her to the outside. Yeah. And I wouldn't have her any farther than like 4 to 6 feet from you.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been real careful anyway, because the electric fence netting is a real choking hazard. If those goats run into that fence, they can be in bad trouble before I can let them out. So
yes, and I did see where you said she went into there and you were surprised. That was great.
Yeah. And she really got within a few feet of that fence, so she's definitely losing some of her aversion to the electric.
Right. So, but just remember, if she touches it again, that's probably going to be it. I mean, associated with goats.
I'm being real careful about making sure it's off whenever she's around, because the goats are trained to it. They won't. I mean, they know when it's on, but they still won't get within a foot of it, even when it's
I'm
off.
trained to it too. I don't, even when I know it's off, I don't like to touch it. And I'm sure Judy wouldn't, but sometimes, like if the goats would try and run one way, she might try and cover them and, just not pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And so you just got to be really careful, because I think you came this close to her not wanting to work them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. She seems to be recovering pretty well, but I'll make.
And that, we let her kind of do some of the crazy stuff because we had to get her hooked up to them again. And that's the only way I know to do it for a dog that's a little fearful or hesitant. But as soon as we get them hooked up, then we start asking for okay, now you can be around them, but you got to control yourself. No.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's see.
No, that sounds good. And if you have any questions, stay on the perimeter, let her walk in, and then you can walk in to give her, if she's lying down, to give her a treat, but then you step back and, and call her off. And, you may have to be real close to her in the beginning, or you may be able to go 6 feet from her and she'll come off. It's just, I don't know. But the closer she gets, probably the harder it'll be to have her come off. So in the beginning, if you're just using the 6-foot leash, I think that's what I would do until I was really comfortable with that. And she could go in, you would stay on the perimeter. You could walk her in, you could stop her, you could give her a treat, then you step back, or you could even not go in and give her a treat, is just call her back, and that cue will be a reinforcer.
Okay.
And then, give her some good treats.
Okay. Well, looks like we're out of time, so I'll see you Friday.
Okay. Thanks, Phil.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye now.